Hello friends, welcome to Dr. Ossai Physiology Academy, DOPA for short. This is the place where we make the learning of physiology easy, exciting, and effective. Thank you for joining me. If you are new to this channel, you're especially welcome. And if you love the content that we share, kindly click the like button and also the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't get to miss any new content that will drop. Now let's get started. Puberty. Puberty. It's not a new word to you, I'm sure of that. You've heard about puberty, you've been taught puberty in your high school, in secondary school. But we're just going to go a little further now in physiology. Okay, so, but before we go ahead, let me just define certain important terms or terminologies. Now, you have one of them, primary sex organ. Primary sex organ. Then you have secondary sex organs. Then you have 3 primary sex characteristics. Then 4, you have secondary sex characteristics. It's good that you know these things. So, primary sex organ, what is it talking about? It's talking about the organ that produces the gamete, because everything we are talking about in this reproduction is just one thing we're trying to arrive at, for a sperm to meet the egg, and then a new organism starts growing and it's formed. That is all. That sperm is the most important thing, everything you are talking about here. So the primary sex organ is the organ that produces the sex cell or the gamete, which is the sperm or the egg. So it is what? Testes and the ovaries, the primary sex organs. Then secondary sex organs. There are other organs that assist the primary sex organ in achieving its purpose. Every other thing that helps the sperm to meet with the egg successfully, those organs, they are what? Secondary sex organs. In the male, for example, we have those internal genital tract, prostate gland is part of it, Cowper's gland, seminal vesicles, and all those ducts, ejaculatory ducts, they are all secondary sex organs. You understand? The penis too, secondary sex organ. Okay, so they assist the primary sex organs, these ones. Now let's talk about the primary sex characteristics. Characteristics has to do with features, okay, what you can see. So primary sex characteristics are talking about the features that indicate maturity of the sexual organs, both the primary and the secondary sexual organs. So these ones, they indicate features primary and secondary. Very important for you to know these terms. The features that indicate that they are mature, they have reached the level, the stage that they can perform reproductive functions. Then secondary sex characteristics are features that indicate and portray adulthood in other parts of the body that are not sex organs. Do you understand it now? Okay, so you see, secondary sex organ, it's good that you know these things. Features that portray adulthood in other organs. For example, hairs in the armpit. Armpit is not a sex organ. Doesn't mean anything. But it portrays that you're now mature. Puberty is part of those secondary sex characteristics. In fact, nowadays people always shave it. They don't need it for anything. But it's part of the feature. That's when you say, this person is maturing. Children don't have it. Okay? So they portray adulthood in other parts of the body. Okay? In other organs. Or parts of the body. Might not necessarily be an organ. Parts of the body. In fact, you can growing of hairs, increase hairs and so on. Facial hairs, parts of the body. They portray, so their secondary sex characteristics portray adulthood, that you are ready to perform reproductive functions. Right, so this is very important for you to know this thing. So when you're talking, you don't get confused. So what is puberty, if you want to even define it? Puberty is the process by which the human being develops reproductive capacity. Do you understand that? It's a process. It's a stage. That's why you have the stage for male. Okay? It's usually, we call it 9 to 13 years. Okay? So it's a process. It's a stage. It's not just one, you just wake up in the morning and you are mature. No. It's a process. Okay? Then in the females, it's a little earlier, 12 years. Or let's even make it broader. It's 8 to 13 years here. Then let's put it 9 to 14 years. Okay? 9 to 14 years in the male. A little earlier in the female. So it's the process. So at this age, the male has developed reproductive capacity, can reproduce, can have sexual intercourse with a female of this age, and they will reproduce a child. Okay? Even if sometimes at this age there's still some other capacities that needs to still be fully developed. But at this age, especially when they reach a certain stage, we are going to mention those events when the ovaries are now fully mature and menstruation starts. Okay? So it's a process by which humans develop reproductive capacity after childhood. Happens in the adolescent age, called adolescence. All right? So after the break, we are going to now be looking at the events of puberty, both in the male and both in the female, stage by stage, how it happens. That's this process. So don't go anywhere after this break. All right, you're welcome back. So now we're going to be dealing with the events of puberty. What are the things, the features, the changes that happen stage by stage? All right. First of all, you ask yourself, what really causes the beginning of puberty? Okay. What makes puberty begin? That is an aspect that is still poorly understood in physiology and in biology. We don't know, but it has been found out that children that are well nourished, okay, they attain puberty faster. And being well nourished has to do with a lot of more adipose tissue, fat. Okay, they are more chubby and so on and so forth. So adipocytes, they secrete a hormone called leptin that acts on the hypothalamus. So that's the relationship. I know everything starts from the hypothalamus, the brain. Releases gonadotropin releasing hormone that acts on the anterior pituitary and that acts on the gonads to release testosterone and estrogen. Okay, but that's not all. It's more complex than that. It's not just only that. So I think that there's a biological clock that also ticks and it signals that this person has aged to this point. Okay, so it's complex. No, the brain is the primary regulator of reproduction, hypothalamus and all of that. So it's still poorly understood, but we have this little insight and the level of nourishment and physical condition can impact on reproductive function, including the beginning of puberty. Have you ever noticed that women that do a lot of exercise, you see that their reproductive instinct becomes suppressed? They stop menstruating. Women that maybe a lot of boxing or athleticism, running, you see that their breasts will shrink, and all of that is trying to tell you that the conditions are not conducive for you to get pregnant. So physical conditions influence this whole thing, right? So let's go straight into puberty, the events of puberty. So GnRH, okay, starts the whole process. Then to the anterior pituitary to secrete this, and LH. So the main hormone, female hormone, that results in all the changes that you see is what? Estrogen. Estrogen. Okay? Then for the male, testosterone. Testosterone. Okay? So now let us start with the female. What are those characteristics? What are those changes that begin to happen? All right? So number one, there's something called telarchy. Telarchy. Telarchy means what? The development of breasts. That's one of the very first signs in females. Okay? Let's write it here. Females. Okay? Telarchy. Development of breasts. So estrogen helps, the breast. It's also called mammary gland. It's a gland. So the glandular tissue there, all those lobules that secrete milk and all of that, begins to develop it. Makes fat begin to deposit around that breast region. It grows. That's what you see as breasts. A lot of fat and also glandular tissue. Estrogen does that. All right. So another one. The next thing that you notice is what they call growth spurt. Growth spurt. That means rapid increase in height, physical size. Estrogen also does that in conjunction with growth hormone. Okay, so we have the epiphysis, okay, the diaphysis, and also, so this place, it promotes the proliferation of chondrocytes, osteocytes, and all of that to lengthen. But also another thing that happens is that it also hastens the fusion of this epiphyseal growth plate, and growth stops. Do you understand? Estrogen makes that happen also. Causes the fusion, the early fusion of that growth plate. So people who lack estrogen, they may not grow very fast, but they will grow more for a longer period of time. So that's what happens. So let's go ahead. Number 3. What do you have again? You have what is known as puberty. Puberty. That's the growth of pubic hairs. Okay, growth of pubic hairs. You know that's very straightforward. The number 4 is what is known as adrenarche. Adrenarche. Okay? Adrenarche, adrenal gland, produces zona reticularis, produces androgens. Okay? That leads to what? The growth of axillary hairs. Armpits. It's from the adrenal gland. Adrenal androgens. That's why it's called adrenarche. Right? Then the next thing you notice is number 5, menarche. Menarche. That's the onset of what? Menstruation. That's menstruation. Every woman knows that. The monthly blood that comes out for a few days. Menstruation. There's a period it starts. that onset is called menarche, when you attain that milestone. Okay, so at the beginning, sometimes the cycle is called anovulatory. Okay, you have anovulatory. You have anovulatory cycles. That is, they are having menstrual period coming out, blood is coming out initially it's not very frequent, okay, at that beginning stage, and there is no ovulation attached to it. But with time, ovulation is attached to it. It's a process, okay? So every month there's ovulation, then the menstruation, and it becomes more regular with time. But initially, it just starts irregular and it's anovulatory, without ovulation. Okay, so other things you notice, you can add the shape, the hips, the enlargement of the hip bone, okay? The enlargement of hip bones. Enlargement of hip bones, figure 8, okay? And deposition of fat around that hip area, women, okay? So also their skin becomes softer and all of that. Then behavioral aspects, become more shy towards the male, and all those things. The details are in the books. So let's go quickly to some of those events that happen in the male. Very interesting, as occasioned by testosterone. All right, let's write it here. The males. What do you notice? Enlargement of the testes. Okay, enlargement of the testis. Testis grows bigger. Okay, then also the enlargement of the penis, scrotum. Okay, enlargement of the penis and scrotum, it grows bigger. Then the next thing happens, there's spermatogenesis starts, like testosterone. All those seminiferous tubules, we'll talk about them later. That's where those cells are produced from, spermatogenesis. And the outward sign of spermatogenesis is emission. Call it nocturnal emission. Number 3, nocturnal emissions. You know, they call it one nickname, wet dreams. Okay, ejaculation at night. You sleep at night. Some nights like that, you will notice you are wet, ejaculated, wet dreams. Spermatogenesis has started. All right, so that's what happens, nocturnal emissions. Then what else will you notice? The same growth spot, but it happens a little later in males. Okay, there's also growth spots. These are the main events, and all these ones, they are additional secondary events. Okay, growth spots. But the thing is that testosterone does not cause that epiphyseal plate to fuse as early as in the female. That's why male, they grow taller and bigger. They grow taller than their female counterparts. All right, so another thing is that testosterone has this very peculiar ability to enlarge muscles, increase muscle bulk and strength. That's why men are generally stronger than females. It's testosterone in conjunction with growth hormone. Okay, increase in muscle, for short, muscle bulk, and then increase in strength, muscle strength. They go stronger. People abuse testosterone, or some athletes, especially those in combat and so on and so forth. It's one of the drugs of abuse because of its effect on muscles. All right, so there's also deepening of the voice. Deepening of the voice. Okay, the male baritone voice as a result of the enlargement of the larynx. You understand? Enlargement of the larynx, vocal cords, and all of that. Testosterone causes that. Then you now have facial hairs. Number 7, facial hairs. Facial hairs. Okay, mustache, beards, sometimes in the chest, and all of that. You know all those. Then also, one I want to point out. Okay, there's a variant of testosterone. You know that called dihydrotestosterone. Okay, we've mentioned it in the introductory lecture. Check it out, DHT, dihydrotestosterone. There's an enzyme that converts testosterone to DHT, 5-alpha reductase. 5-alpha reductase. In some tissues, this enzyme is there and converts. And you know what? It's what causes this male pattern of baldness. Call it receding hairline. Okay? Receding hairline. Male pattern baldness. Okay, male pattern baldness. Why some they're totally bald, why some others might just go in a little to the sides and so on. So it's DHT that causes that. It also causes the enlargement of the prostate gland. DHT. All right, so these are the things that happen. The details are in the books. So thickening of the skin. Males, they have more hairs on their skin and they have tougher skin. If you notice it, check it well. That males have tougher skin than females. It's testosterone. They're all part of the puberty, secondary sex characteristics and all of that. So that's basically what you need to know about the events of puberty. Then another thing is that sometimes puberty can come too early. It's called precocious puberty. Precocious. Okay? Generally when it happens earlier than 7 to 9 years. Earlier than 7 to 9 years. It's called precocious puberty. And you have the true precocious puberty and the pseudo precocious puberty. Okay? The true one actually is called true because it follows the normal way puberty starts, which starts from GnRH being released from the hypothalamus, influencing the anterior pituitary hormones to be secreted FSH and LH and acts on we gonads and all of that. It follows that normal pattern. True precocious, just as it's very too early. Too early. But pseudo actually happens when androgens are secreted excess from the adrenal gland, the zona reticularis. You understand that? Sometimes there could be congenital adrenal hyperplasia secreting. So the difference between that pseudo one and the true one is the fact that there is no gametogenesis. But the person will have all this large increase in penis, growth spurt and all everything, but spermatogenesis is lacking and all of that. Genesis, they're lacking because it's pseudo, false. All right, so the details are in the book. So that's basically what you need to know about puberty. Right, so I'm going to see you in the next video.